Thank you, Simeon. Good morning, everyone. I am very pleased to be here today and to lead this discussion around real-time payment in Tanzania. It is very important that everyone knows that we're telling this story based on our perspective and the way we saw the journey of real-time payment happening in Tanzania. The way we'll run the session, I will be working with a number of my colleagues and friends who will help me tell this story from different perspectives. But also at the end of the session, I will allow at least 3 questions from the audience to at least get a bit of interactions with you guys and feel how you guys have taken the session. So I would like to jump quickly to introduce my partners in telling this story. I will start with a good friend of mine, Isack Nchunda, who is the CEO of Airtel Money Tanzania. Isack has worked for Zain Cash in operation in Middle East, and Isack was also a head of product and marketing in M-Pesa in Tanzania. Welcome on stage, Isack. Cool. The second one I'll call up is Abel. Abel is the Deputy Director and Principal Technologist in Financial Services for the Poor with Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. At the Gates Foundation, Mila initiated the Modular open source program in 2016, and he also sits as a board of directors and chair of technical governing board with the Modular. Welcome. Then finally, I would like to introduce to you Benjamin Dotto. Benjamin, who is a Director of Infrastructure and Operation at E-Government Agency. You will hear more about that. But, and the E-Government Agency sits within the President's Office and Public Service Management within the government. Benjamin is instrumental to the TIPS program. He is part of the technical committee of TIPS, but he's also part of the management and technical committee of GEPG platform. He manages a lot of government payment platforms in Tanzania. I would like to welcome Benjamin on stage. Thank you very much, guys, for joining me. I don't know, Benjamin, if you can go slightly further, yeah, and I'll, yes. So first of all, thank you very much for joining me. I really feel privileged to be able to tell this story not by myself, but with people who have walked this journey from different perspectives. And I would like to kick on this discussion and taking it up from Isack. How, Isack, maybe you talk to us, how as an operator, I'll leave it to that. How are you adjusting your business models with the new implementation of RTPS system in Tanzania?
Thanks. Sorry for the setup. 1 second. All right, so I'll be able to share the story. I'm coming from the business side, and as Emma knows, so we have been switching traffic and we've been operating on real time. So the most important thing as we get to the switch, the real time payments, for us, we have been having a business model. As you know, in business, a business model evolves over time. So mobile money in Tanzania started basically without interoperability, as most of you may know. So we had closed loop systems and we went into interoperability thanks to the Gates Foundation and SIGA. By then, we were able to work out a model which was interoperable MNOs. And in Tanzania, MNOs are integrated to basically banks. We have got over 50 banks and over 6 wallets, and all of us are integrated basically with banks, and we have interoperability. And it's been a journey. As a mature market, it's a journey. So to answer your question specific, and what I would like to share is that given the journey we have had to reaching maturity and interoperability, the real-time payments is actually going to be something that brings us together and grows the ecosystem. And for us, the business models will be able to work for us because we have working commercials already among MNOs and among banks. So similar commercials would be applied when it comes to joining the switch. The real-time payments would use similar bilateral commercials, but this time it would be non-bilateral. It would be a unified kind of commercial, which we agree among each other. And we're going to go through phases and we're going to evolve our business model. So our business model, we're going to learn and evolve it. But the most important thing we are looking for is actually to make our customer happy, to ensure that we actually drive a seamless experience for the customer and grow the ecosystem. So the switch is going to do that for us. And as business, we want an efficient business model, which actually is a win-win situation for us, lower cost structure and higher profitability, and making our customer happy. If we win the heart of the customer, we also win in terms of business when we have efficient business model. So we have learned over time, and we'll be applying similar commercials which have been tested, and we should be able to run an efficient business model and make more interoperable business and make actually every customer use any operator painlessly. So we don't have to create a pain for the customer, as long as there's a business model for the business. And sustainability of the business model is one of the key things that we are looking to build, and hence our business model will be evolving. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Isack. Anybody to add on that particular point? Great.
I had briefly that we were working with this group early on in 2014, and it was becoming pretty clear that interoperability could become this tool for improving the financial inclusion goals that we had set early on. And the exploration with this bilateral system was a straightforward way to test these theories. Like, was this going to improve business? Would it improve access and reach for the financial community, but also for their customers? That focus on the customers was the important thing. And I think, as would be attested to, there were additional cases that flowed out of these interoperable systems that would not have been available to them running individually in closed loop environments. And so that was clear at some point that this would make sense. But we were quickly faced with the math. You can connect 3 to 5 together relatively in bilateral ways with some difficulty, but you can do it. You can't connect 50 together bilaterally. There has to be some fabric that can be put in place to make this more efficient and to reduce the exposure that they have to each to those individual connections. But it all started with this.
Great, yeah, I think that's a very important point. Like, if you think about the evolution and how Tanzania took the journey to reach a point whereby we need a hub and spoke model, you'll realize that the private sector actually played a big role. But I would like to jump back to Benjamin, and maybe just in your opinion, what are the drivers of real-time payment system in case of Tanzania specifically? What drove you guys to do TIPS?
Thank you, Innocent, and thank you, member of the community. Some of the key driving factors for us on real-time payment, first of all, simplifying the payment model by making digital payment service accessible to everyone. Another is the interoperability between the different stakeholders, so to enable a seamless experience in digital payment. Another fact on real-time payment was to lower the cost of operations. So to enable multiple stakeholders to participate and embrace the idea of real-time payment. And another factor is stakeholder engagement. it involves public and private stakeholders. So this need to come to one table and have a uniform or a common objective of enhancing or successfully implementing real-time payment system. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. And you want to add anything? Okay, so I really appreciate the fact that you mentioned the number of key principles or reasons why you took this journey. And basically you guys were driven by the challenges that you had, especially from oversight and regulation point of view. But that is great that you then looked at that journey to be your solution. I'll jump to you, Mila. You've been in this process from the very beginning. As Mila, as Gates Foundation, what made you see this as a program you can support?
Well, thank you. Yeah, we had been working at the foundation and my colleagues before me on what we called the Level 1 Project Principles, which was a collection of, for those that haven't studied it yet, or haven't heard me talk about it, it is a collection of evidence-based recommendations for real-time payments in interoperable fora. And we had been developing this, and it's somewhat of a repeated patterns that we'd seen in successful implementations around the world, and starting with some of the folks that are here, in fact, were a part of that original thing. But the fact that we could maybe bring some combination of technology and business thinking to these environments that would not denature them, removing all of the business opportunity for something that was a giveaway, but to actually improve the systems by removing what we say, remove uncertainty and lower the cost. And this became what we would call this 4-rung ladder. At the very bottom is the rules. This is where the government sets the rules about how people operate, but also the goals that they want to achieve. On top of those rules, we can then set rails, and those rails together connect all of the parties and players in the digital system, making digital more attractive than cash. Those two together we think of as cooperation space. That is, they're not profit seeking. Those are ways in which they're the rules of the game and the game board. And then on top of that are the commercial players for account setting, deposit taking institutions. The way in which the customer finds the system is through them. On top of that is an unlock opportunity for everybody, which is the apps layer. This is where we see companies like Uber and others, Gojek, Grab, that are looking at ways of addressing customers where payments is contextualized with their service delivery. How do they go about doing that? How can they actually take payments? All of that stacked together then we thought of through that lens. That was not market specific. And it's those principles have then been taken by different groups, and they've looked at them and come up with their own thinking around what would they take from that and what would they augment with. That's what got me involved in that was how can we use these combination of software and service thinking to improve this space. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mila. See, from the business side, the rules of the game and the principles are very critical. And end of the day, we are customer-centric entities and we play within rules, but we innovate and stay ahead in terms of customer needs. So for this market, we really have grown the customer from the initial value proposition of mobile money, of sending money home, to the use of actually paying utilities, to bank to wallet and wallet to bank integration, to savings and credit, something we couldn't imagine more than 10 years ago, that an MNO would actually partner with the bank and do savings and credit. So all of these rules actually have been developed and the business models have been reinvented over time and bringing the country actually to higher levels of financial inclusion. So if you look at the FinScope survey, you see that financial inclusion has gone up by far with the participation of MNOs and banks and with the participation of a strategic partnership, which was actually possible because of the forged rules and collaboration. So the business models of mobile money and actually financial services have evolved in the country where the MNOs, the banks are able to play in the fields and service the customer needs. In financial inclusion for both MNOs and banks is over 80%. And our framework for national inclusion is actually we are aspiring to even close the gap completely through this participation. But the key part is the government as a stakeholder through GPG platform And also the central bank has played a key role. I think we're missing Mr. Dadi here. I would have made a joke to him now because it's been participation approach on both sides, but more market-led, and the central bank being able to accept the risk and agree on some of the propositions where we had to take a risk and provide a mitigation framework. So it's reached a stage where the rules were very important, risk-taking and innovation was very important, and most important part is growing a customer use case from that money sending home to utility payment. Wherever you are, you can bank with mobile money. You can now save, and you can even get a loan through mobile money. And beyond that, we have reached a stage where wherever you are in Tanzania, being it extreme rural or in urban areas, you can receive money instantly from wherever in the world. So we have reached a stage where financial inclusion and convenience to the customers become very important. And we have reached a stage where strategic partnerships have become very important, and the rule of the game has to be now the government enabling it. And now we have got the levy, which we are discussing with the government, how to take it further and really make it further financial inclusive by enabling actually more inclusion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Isack, for the addition. And you've also made a very important point. You know, it takes a village to raise a child. We've seen contribution from not only the private sector, but when all this started, the late Professor Ndulu, who was the governor at that time, was very much pro financial inclusion. And it goes without saying, mobile money drove a lot of financial inclusion in Tanzania, which led, and you know, this market is slightly different from other markets in a way that we have three major competitors in mobile money space who had kind of similar market share. I don't want to talk about market share because you'll tell me Airtel is leading. However, when you at Vodacom, you said Vodacom was leading. But that led into a need of having interoperable environment, which you guys took a bilateral approach. And then we went into this hub and spoke, something that you guys have done. Now I want to jump to you, Isack. You've been part of the CUG members in TIPS. CUG is the closed user group. So the first 5 DFSPs that joined the TIPS program. Isack, would you talk about your experience, your onboarding experience in the platform?
Sure, thanks for that, Innocent. I think for the benefit of the members and some of you may be taking similar journeys. For us in Tanzania, for us in Tanzania, I think that we have embarked on a journey of TIPS, I think over the last 1 year. And it's been an experience for the 5 initial FSPs who actually started the integration process. And my company being one of the first FSP, as we were the first also in interoperability, we have learned a lot, but we have had a very good experience, I would say, to be able to connect up to this point. The onboarding has been seamless as a pilot phase since end of last year. And we are glad to say most of the partners who are out of the top 5, all the banks are now connected. So customers, all the customer transactions on wallet to bank and bank to wallet for the 3 bank FSPs are already connected, and we're finalizing a few things to be able to close completely the pilot phase. So it's been a seamless experience. Are there things we could do better out of the first pilot experience? Definitely, yes. So there are learnings on APIs changes that we could have really done better to speed up the process, but definitely we're able to be reactive enough to be able to manage any challenge that came in. But the experience has been really, really seamless. And now the 3 banks are already interoperable with us, and we'll be looking at onboarding a fellow MNO in the near future, in the next couple of few weeks. I think what it takes is the understanding of the architectures. And I do appreciate what the central bank and the technology partner has done in terms of really being flexible to customize APIs that could fit all the architectures. And the learnings we could take is how do we drive more engagement to all the other technology providers who are consuming these APIs to seamlessly apply these and take the learnings of some few features that missed in the beginning that could be taken in. But the experience has been seamless, and actually we do not have issues we had more on by Retro. Now the experience is towards how do we onboard other partners in the next phase. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much, Isack. I would like to jump to you, Doctor. Isack has spoken about tips and the experience of onboarding. I think the question that the audience maybe would want to know, what is these tips? And in your opinion, what makes it unique?
Thank you, Innocent. First of all, TIPS is an abbreviation for Tanzania Instant Payment System. It is an interoperable digital payment platform available to all licensed financial service providers in the country. And the main objective or the aim of having TIPS is to offer secure, effective, low-cost digital payment service to the majority of the public. I want to acknowledge Level 1 Principal and Module for the hard work and tremendous effort in providing the vision on how an inclusive payment system, which can accommodate even the poorest population, should be. So TIPS have been built based on that. The technology stack for Module as well as the guiding principle for Level 1. What makes TIPS unique, in my opinion? First of all, it's an all use cases which are available in the local market. You are aware we do have an existing government electronic payment system which has been in use for a while now. And I think if you paid for your visa here, you must have paid through the government payment platform. You paying for a PCR test, it's gone through the same platform. But it covers only a couple use cases, which are X2G, means citizen to government, business to government, but TIPS encompasses all use cases which are available in our local market. Another thing is a fraud utility, which ensures safety and increases confidence in the participating stakeholders. Another unique feature is a customer-centric, means all stakeholders, private and public, have been engaged in almost every stage of its conception, implementation, even in operation in setting the rules. Operational cost in means of pricing is transparent to all stakeholders. So it makes it more accommodative or more useful to majority of stakeholders. Another unique feature is it has created a fair playing field for all financial service providers. In bilateral, it is very possible for a couple powerful financial service provider to establish a monopoly, because you have to agree on individual basis. But having a hub and spoke, and which is operated by the Bank of Tanzania, it removes that barrier and it opens up to all people. Another unique factor is the push payment model, which enables real-time payments and same-day settlement. This affords even the financial service provider who doesn't have the muscles maybe to deposit a certain amount in advance to banks for enabling transaction. So those are some of the features which I think makes TIPS a unique product and beneficial to majority of the population.
Thank you very much, Benjamin. If anybody want to add to that?
Yeah, let me add to that, because I was part of the initial engagements when the eGov started TIPS. And essentially what it made easier for business and operators is centralized government payments. So government is a key stakeholder in the economy, okay? So the government has gone digital, meaning that all the government parastatals and all the government key utility service owned, like electricity, now went digital, and that simplified actually ways of working, because the connectivity we had before, which were through multiple aggregators, were actually eliminated, and we were able to connect through one hub, and that actually brought efficiency and brought more customer experience. We still have to do a lot more to improve customer experience when it comes to platform stability. But I think the central point became GPG, and GPG was able to, through the use of control number, simplify the entire government ecosystem, and both MNOs and bank and other payment system providers are able to connect and are able to really provide service to the customer. So service experience improvement has come as a result of that. And yes, we still have a long way to go to bring the experience to the levels our customers deserve. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Isack. I think that is very helpful. And I'm happy to hear one of the key pointers that you mentioned out that makes TIPS unique comes out clearly to be your TIPS principles that were put forward to guide where you want to go. And I think it is important for the audience to understand that it's not that it was just built because of the wishy-washy needs of some people. They had to sit down and say, these are the principles we're gonna abide with, and this is why we're doing it. Once you build it with the foundation and everybody understands why you're doing it, then the vision is clear and the path will be much longer, and we've got a much greater possibility of having success. Now, I'll jump to you, Miller, and maybe it would be nice to hear from you, given the fact that we've had what drove the local implementers. What are the challenges you see in RTP today? And what can we be learning or prepping for?
So if we're going to paddle fast, the next wave we want to catch is cross-border. I think that the thing that we're seeing now, in fact, most of the activity that we're seeing around RTP and cross-border is right here in East Africa. I think that the work going on now at TMEA and East Africa community, which began actually with the late Professor Ndulu, starting this, making it very clear. He says, you can't onboard 4,000 banks to a single switch that's operated outside the country. You have to have domestic switching capacity. And so each of the countries in the EAC region, now +1 with DRC joining, need to have some ability to connect these systems together so that there can be a defined corridor set up then between them that can be managed by the EAC or the central region. This would apply outside of EAC to other regions as well, but I think what we're seeing now is the real force and effect of the activities in country now showing that it's possible that we might not be that far off from seeing this cross-border. I would say that some of the other cases that are already being explored will become even more important. We talked a bit earlier about e-commerce and the way in which that's becoming possible now for people who hold very simple USSD phones to make purchases. I think that's going to become increasingly important. You also heard from Paula early on about the central bank digital currency. That is something that I think over the next 5 years will become an important wholesale tool, simplifying the way that the providers can participate in settlement. Already, again, Tanzania has led the regulatory wave by modifying their regulations to permit the non-banks to hold settlement accounts with the central bank. Now, this permits then settlement to occur, same-day settlement to occur in central bank money, which means there's essentially no outstanding loss risk. So they can now onboard these different kinds of institutions that are untraditional for a central bank to directly to work with. CBDC may now expand that even further. We'll see how it develops. I do think that's maybe a 5-year time frame for this, but it's something that Paul is organizing us to get involved in pretty soon. Perfect. Those would be my thoughts. Thank you.
See, only one point to what Mira shared. See, from the operator's point of view, when we get into TIPS and the central bank having the onboarding part. So one important part is we want this infrastructure really co-owned by operators and banks together with some principles agreed when it comes to really onboarding and participant, for example, fintech participants and etc. See, we want to welcome everybody, including fintechs. We want them on board, but on the right business rules and commercials. because we have built whatever you are seeing thriving mobile financial services and thriving banking infrastructure in Tanzania, which we need to take to the next level, but we really need to have sustainable business models. So there is a business risk which we have to manage together and taking care of the investment levels that have been done. In this sense, what we mean is we welcome all the fintechs, but we have to look at the business models that are applying. Like whenever I'm having like an interoperability commercial or wallet to bank and bank to wallet commercial, there's a thinking behind the receiver model, receiver pays model. There's a thinking behind where a bank on bank to wallet should be charged at a bank account and not at MNO, and wallet to bank should be charged at an MNO point and not at a bank, and to be able to open up the ecosystems. So when we bring new players, we have to have a thinking of what is the working business model. And for the more than 50 banks and more than 6 wallets operating and some more licensed wallets coming, what should be the sustainable business model to bring efficiency at the same time, not to disrupt the existing players? That's a thought I wanted to play in here as we evolve in the future. And we really care about that as we want to bring efficiency and digital money circulation growth and making it easier for the customer and ecosystem growth. We have to have respected principles when it comes to commercials. That's the only part I wanted to add.
Thank you very much, Isack. And I think you kind of driving us towards what next is. And some of the pointers I hear you saying is typically what I would be worried about if I was a private sector like yourself. But the question that I want to throw out before I go back to the audience is basically what should we be looking at to take this industry forward? Now, Tanzania, you've come from no mobile money, no regulations. We were very lucky to have a regulator who adopted a test and learn approach to allow you guys to test without actually being regulated. And then you got the regulations, and then you evolved your technology faster than what the regulation wanted you to do, which means the regulations were supposed to be updated to cope with that. But again, then the government took lead in making sure that they create an environment that allows for you guys to keep innovating. And my question to you, which is open to all of you guys, what can we do to make a substantial difference in payment, especially the case of Tanzania?
Thanks for that. I think the first part is one, I think we are grateful for the central bank and the government for the, I think, good environment that has brought the sector to where it is now. And going forward, really, we have to work together because huge opportunities around payments, as widely said by you. So one piece we have is, given that all the players, MNOs, banks, and fintech, we are already in the same space, working together, and the central bank has put a playing level field kind of environment. The key part is, as we now get to the switch and as we now take it to the future, what is needed is allowing more innovation to thrive through strategic partnership, which will be led by commercials, and then allowing more innovations to come through both banks and MNOs and fintechs collaboration, but going into untapped potential areas like more rural, where we are seeing still, despite having banks to that level, we still have unbanked in form of not able to open a saving account through a mobile money, because mobile money penetration is the highest. And because mobile money is actually accessible to almost everybody who is able to purchase a $10 low-end handset or an $8 low-end handset. So through that handset, someone is able to actually become financially inclusive through accessing the financial products. So what I'm seeing is to bring more efficiency, one is participation, and second is the central bank and the government is a key stakeholder, working together on government priorities of financial inclusion, and working with the government also to bring more affordability is going to be a key part for us as players to take this to the next level.
I'll jump to, okay.
Thank you, Innocent. From the government side, I see a big role for governments to play. First of all, to have a good environment, regulatory environment and policy framework to enable this. But the tendency is innovation goes faster than how the regulatory framework is updated or improved. So for the government to really benefit, the regulatory frameworks need to be updated as frequently to go with the speed of innovation. Another thing is to create a condition which will foster innovation, sandboxes, startups, environments, and everything, so that majority of the stakeholders can benefit from this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Benjamin. Mila, you wanna add on that before I jump to the audience?
I add one thing only because my colleagues have really spoken deeply about it already, but I'm continually impressed by how the system has come together. And I think if you step back and look at what it enables, TIPS enables a woman in a rural village with an $8 phone to activate a payment system that serves 48 million people.
Amazing.
Amen.
Amazing. Yeah. Thank you very much, guys. I would like to open it up to the audience, and I will take a maximum of 3 questions. Please feel free to ask any of the panelists, and we'll be more than happy to have that discussion. I'll do ladies first. No, there's a mic.
Thank you so much. Morning, everyone, and those online, hello as well. So my big question is especially to the government. My name is Amili Dewasi. I work for UBX Tanzania Limited. This is a technology company under Ubonjo Switch. So we deal with a lot of banks, a lot of SACCOs, and we do a lot of projects with the various entities. And one of the big things is basically the policies around this. And actually, Mr. Dotto, you have put it quite well that in terms of technology and innovation, we're moving quite faster than the government policies and how they're changing. Do you think the government should include other stakeholders when they're doing the policies? Because the one thing that I am seeing here, there's a lot of disparity between what's in the market and the policies that are coming up in Tanzania. The government has got very great intentions, but for the Tanzanian economy, are they realistic? For example, when the government levies were imposed on the mobile wallets, even I personally, who I can afford those transactions, sometimes I would rather drive 10 minutes to just go withdraw money and just take it there physically. So do you feel that's something that the government should actually be inclined to when they're doing their policies? And then the other question, the other thing for me is with the MNOs and in terms of education. We are doing a lot of marketing, and I see a lot of marketing and a lot of pushing for transactions. But what initiatives have the MNOs taken to actually educate the Tanzanians about the benefits for some of these issues? I will give you a very simple example. At some point, UBX, we had a transportation card called the Uhuru Pay. So basically you could enter a daladala, we call them daladalas here, so you pay using the card. So because of regulatory factors, we had to stop that line of product. Now, in my neighborhood, there are a lot of border borders. So they know where I work, and they came to me and they're telling me, Dada, why did you stop this card? I want the card. But I told him, but you're using a border, why do you want the card? Basically for them, they want a place to store their money. So that there is a need for this, but how are we really educating them that the MNOs, when you store your money here, what are the benefits of it? What can you get from it? As much as there's also the government levies that have actually pushed the customers away from the MNOs.
Wow, that was loaded. So
let the government start.
We'll respond to that. We'll respond to that and then take the second question.
Thanks for the question. Yeah, I strongly agree with your opinion. I see a really huge need for involving all stakeholders in formulating a policy, because the policy is about people. And if they're not engaged or included, then it won't work. So the government is taking some strides toward that. It has established some online channels for now for citizens to communicate directly with the government, submit their opinion and everything on everything. from the regulatory framework up to the police level, and also receive feedback timely. So it's still a work in progress, but we see the importance and we are striving toward that direction.
Thank you very much, Doctor. And my job here is to moderate, make sure you guys don't fight. So given that there's a levy question, I would really urge you, Isack, not to ask a question on top of that, but respond to that question.
Thank you for
Isack is from the MNOs, and they're doing a very good job to make sure that the levy story is aligned with the market environment.
Thank you for that. So I won't go to the levy story.
Thank you.
But I'm sure you'll be working on it together with us to correct it. So I think to answer a very important question on the customer education. So Tim, I think we have had a lot of learnings on customer education. One is every new product you introduce in the market. It depends on the uptake would depend on customer need. And the second key pillar would be customer knowledge. If a customer has a need, it's easier to educate and it's easier for adoption. If it's a new product, let's say a card example, this is a use case that is relevant. It's a niche use case that requires a little bit above the line marketing or below the line marketing. So those kind of new products like savings, credit is easier to sell. Savings and card, they require personalized selling or personal selling plus an experience element. So what we do in the industry, if you launch a product like that, you go into high traffic areas like ferry, where you deploy people and talk to customers and educate how to use the product, what is the need for the product. And you get a user to educate another user over time. So we have had lessons in the market over the past, 10 to 15 years of mobile money evolution, where when we launch a product which is high demand, above the line, below the line, education has worked for us. And when we have niche kind of a product, which is targeted to specific use cases, like a customer needs to save. So making savings a habit or a way of life for unbanked person who is used to different means of keeping money aside at home under the mattress become a reality, requires someone to believe in it, requires someone to know how to do it. So that is where we deploy personalized setting, and we deploy people to go and meet different groups and talk to them and educate why you need it. The moment you get someone hooked, that is the end of it. So customer education continues to be the key focus. And especially at this stage where we're launching a lot of products that are evolved, driving financial inclusion to the next level, like savings, like the card products and etc. It's required to go the different route than the above the line we have been adopting in the past few years.
Thank you very much, Isack. Now I will, for obvious reason, allow Innocent to ask a question.
I'm not sure how obvious the reason is, Innocent.
I am still innocent.
Okay. But we agreed that you should call me Lord Mayor.
Oh.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you so much, Innocent, for moderating. And thanks to the panelists. Amila, you helped me answer the question Damal was asking me for the last 4 days about Tipsy. No, you helped me answer the question already, telling us about 48 million people leveraging a switch and have every kind of service. So thank you for helping me answer that question already. I want to ask Isack. Isack, I am a fintech and financial inclusion advocate. I am personally very passionate about seeing low-income users make these services and solutions we produce more friendly. But when I say I say my team, high people, and every one of us and our partners are passionate about the same. In Uganda, on an average day of the month, we have about 2.9 million interoperable transactions through a bilateral MTN to Airtel. But on a very busy day, we have about 3.8 million, the busiest day of the month. And I'm sure the last figure that I checked of Tanzania was slightly lower. Well, about 2 weeks ago, MTN, through bits of advocacy we've been doing, cut down the costs or the charges to about 50%. But I want to know from your point of view as an operator in this space, what is hindering the growth of the numbers? Because people would like to do this. That's the first question. The other is still to you. It's about supporting things like third-party payment initiators, which I believe, and I'm sure very many folks here would believe, are very important in enabling fintech support the acceleration of financial inclusion in your space, which you play a very big role in making sure they happen. And the last question is about whether you are thinking of allowing creation of interoperable lending and borrowing products that allow that the same way I am able to send money across a network or a bank to a mobile wallet, I can also borrow in the same way. Thank you so much.
The stage is yours.
Thank you. So I think 3 critical questions you have asked. Let me start with the last one, and I'll speak more about Tanzania. I think some of the learnings may also apply to your country. So the third part about interoperable lending is about building control. Over time is something that would happen. But the most important thing I want to tell you about lending we have today in the market, it is unsecured lending, and the credit scoring and risk appetite of the balance sheet provider is actually a key part. So balance sheet provider interested to see how they can profitably run the model, because it's a disruptional kind of business model where you're giving credit to someone you don't know, just based on the algorithm of scoring. And given the use case of the product, it should be able to sustainably cause a customer to continue using the line he's having, at the same time grow the business. So the interoperable lending is something that could be built in the future if the balance sheet provider would be actually having more comfort when it comes to really having the credible credit scoring and having some control, whoever is taking money within the network or to another network could be traced. And that comes with the central bank collaboration through CRB, for example. That comes up with the more KYC and the more behaviors of credibility and repayment evolve over time. So it's the question of time. As innovators, we need to work together to be able to crack this one. Coming to the first part of your question, I think what applies, like MNOs like us, basically Airtel is in 14 countries, but I'll speak more what I'm mandated to, which is Airtel Money in Tanzania. I think we are doing a lot together with fintech and companies in the country to bring more connectivity. So we have created open APIs. We have simplified ways of integration. Back in the days when we were working here with my colleague Innocent, back in the days, we used to have middleware. We moved from middlewares, now we are into open APIs. So basically any technology company which has basic technology infrastructure can integrate with mobile money operators in Tanzania and can actually collect through mobile money or disperse through mobile money. I think this has been a 2-3 years phenomenal achievement. And with this one, we're actually collaborating. So the model we're having here, if you look at large pay bill operators, over 1,000 companies integrated, large, when it comes to merchants, those who are doing acquiring of merchants, any small business can easily have a till number. So it's already a collaborative environment. I think the key part is how do we take it to the next level and drive more usage from an urban customer tends to use more. How do we take that to a rural customer who simply receives money and cashes out, and bring those digital transactions and unlock those transactions which are cash to digital, and actually make trillions of transactions happen through the ecosystem. I think that's our challenge, and that will take not only MNOs, it will take also fintechs and other providers who will be joining the digital payment ecosystem, collect and disburse, and really this is how we're going to defeat cash together. So you as a fintech, as passionate as you are, we are passionate, but most importantly, we are driving a business agenda here. We have to have sustainable business model that can allow us to invest in technologies, that can allow us to integrate with Moja and any other platforms. But again, we must protect the core of that so that we can stay here today, tomorrow. Whatever products we are building, I was telling my team over recent, can you imagine we collaborated and did a savings product, an insurance product. This is a product that is changing lives. It's a product your grandchild will also say, this is a changing life means that your grandchild does not have to walk into an insurance company to go and do the paperwork to get a cover. You can do it online. My own mom was a teacher. She used to travel for a day to go and fetch for Sarah. It's now history. Within seconds, she can do bank to wallet. So we are changing lives, and this will take all the ecosystem providers to work together with the right business model for sustainable today and tomorrow. Thank you.
Sounds like a nice slogan, Airtel Money, we are changing lives. Amazing. So I will take the last question, and then I would like to go back to Mila to talk to us about what should we be prepping for to face the future when it comes to our TP. But for now, I'll take the last question. Okay, I'll take the last 2 questions. Okay, I'll take the last 3 questions, but let them be short. No, I'm not taking the last 4. Simeon, tell me I'm still in time. Okay, 7 minutes. So if you allow me, I'll take it from Paul, then you, then the lady. And Sam, I will be more than happy to have a chat with you on the side.
Yeah, thank
Paul.
you. Yeah, I'm Paul Damocha, working with UNCDF Tanzania. Mine is just a comment, actually, not a question, responding to a question Millie asked. Yeah, so one of the ways in which UNCDF is supporting is to a regulatory sandbox framework. We working with the Ministry of Communication and others to set up a regulatory sandbox framework. And in this, we'll be working closely with some of the regulators, including BOT, CMSA, in setting up some of these sandbox environments. So this will help in generating evidence for either policy amendments or changes. So it will allow the regulators in a more agile way be able to respond to some of these policy issues that are there, while allowing the DFSPs to simulate and learn quickly from this environment. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'll take one from John Mark. Right there.
Thank you, Innocent. My name is John Mark. I work with MTN. I'm in charge of the technology platforms for all our markets in Africa. My question, allow me to make it 2 questions. One, there is a talk about all use cases for tips. I would want a little bit of elaboration on what I could term as end-to-end interoperability, whereby you look at interoperability at the agent networks, where we do cash-ins and cash-outs. You look at interoperability with merchant payments, what you call the tills. And of course, you look at interoperability in money transfers. I know many times when we talk interoperability, the first use case has been the P2P movement, but I want to understand from a tips approach and maybe a roadmap, how you are going to deliver interoperability across with many of these other use cases. My other question is around the closed user group. I think you did mention that there were about 5 entities already in the CUG. I want to understand what has been the criteria you've used to pick these members into the closed user group, and how has this been effective? Thank you.
Thank you very much, John Mark. So I'll take the last question there, and then I will, let's take the last question first, and then we can answer those questions. And then I'll encourage you to connect with the panelists at a later stage to have an engagement. You're welcome.
Thank you very much. My name is Engineer Imelda Salm. I work for the Communication Regulatory Authority here in Tanzania, TCRA. Mine is not a question, but I just wanted to add something on what was being discussed regarding the regulatory environment. As you may know, TCRA is part and parcel of whatever is going on in the digital financial services. meaning that much of the licensing framework covers the central bank on one side, but us as TCRA, we also provide licenses regarding fintechs and companies who want to involve in the digital payment systems. So in terms of the regulatory framework is well set, and much as sometimes we lag behind, the innovation goes ahead of us, but we are trying our best every time to review the regulations, applicable laws, so as to cater for whatever advancement in technology and innovation that is going on in the market. And especially now we are working on having a license for e-commerce. We didn't have one. So we have been receiving so many applications for companies wanting to do financial services, which are not MNOs. And as you know, we started with the MNOs offering financial services, but now we see the market is evolving. We are getting some other fintechs who want to do financial services. So that is what is happening. And regarding the innovators, we as well reviewed some of the comments we get from stakeholders that resources, some of the resources that are required to enable financial inclusion and digital financial services, they require licenses. And you may have innovators who want to try some products and services, but they don't have enough capital to pay for the licenses. So there is a provision as well for innovators through sandboxes to be provided with, for instance, USSD codes, which are free of charge. They could test their products and services, and thereafter, after they are comfortable with them, and they could apply for licenses at a later stage. So that is at least what is going on with the regulatory environment on our side as TCRA. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Imelda, and it's such a pleasure to have you in the room, and thank you for your contribution. Should I allow you, Doctor, to respond to John Mark?
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, John, for the question. For tips, the use cases has been phased. We have phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3. So phase 1 started with the common use cases, which most of the users have been doing. Things like person to person or citizen to citizen, citizen to business, which have already been done in the existing platforms. So that's the approach TIPS is taking in implementing all use cases.
Great. Yeah, looks like it's comfortable. Now, I would like to encourage you to have a discussion with any of these panelists out there when we finish this session. But I would like to jump back to you guys, and maybe I start with Mila. You've been quiet for a while.
Like me.
What should we be expecting for the future? How do we prep? How do we move from here? In your opinion, how do you see RTP evolving, and what are those good things coming our way?
Well, I would focus on the expansion from domestic to cross-border. There's going to be pressure to develop understanding for that. Some of our colleagues in Asia have already experienced some of this. We've seen with the Monetary Authority of Singapore working together with Thailand to allow you to make an instant payment between the two countries, something that took them almost 14 months to get the regulations right and much less time to get the technology right. So I think there's something coming that we should get started on relatively soon to get an understanding of. And honestly, it comes back to business modeling to a certain degree. That's one part. I think the other is how does not just the technology, but the money flows work in those environments. Central bank digital currency is on the radar. It's going to become, I believe, an important factor at the wholesale level at the very least. And it could be something that we track through our COE as we have it forming here, as Paul is developing that. we can get some early experience. How would we use central bank digital currency to settle real-time payments flows across borders? And finally, I will hear this week from some people that are looking at one of the other aspects. How do I address a payment to somebody in another country? When I don't have regulatory authority over them, I don't really know who they bank with. It could be a fintech. How do I address a payment securely and safely to that person? Know that it's the right person. And of course, then be able to use all the benefits of the systems like TIPS that have been built to then cause that transfer to occur. Those are, I think, maybe the things I might focus on.
Thank you very much. I would like to, I'm on borrowed time and Simeon has not punched me yet, but I would like to leave the stage before he does that. So please help me give a round of applause to